a math question.
Okay.
And I understand that there's a sequence to the power of I, but I wanted to know how does it go and how does it work in equations?
Okay.
So a sequence to the power of I.
I think I know what you're asking, and let me go for it. And if I am off base, then help me understand your question a little bit better. But I think I got you. And I'm sorry because I can't hear you all that well, but let me know.
That's okay.
All right, so if you go to my screen, are you watching, by the way?
Yeah.
Perfect, okay. So if you go to my screen, I'm gonna go with what I think you're asking me here. What I is it's an imaginary number. It's an imaginary number that actually equals the square root of -1. But we use I just because it's a lot easier to write, and I'm sure there are other reasons as well. But if we take I to powers, so I to the first power, I to the second power, I to the third power, I to the fourth, and so on, there's a pretty specific pattern to it. And I'll show you that, and I think that's where we're going with it. So if we have I squared, it's going to be the square root of -1 squared, and squaring something undoes a square root. And so I squared is going to be equal to -1. And then, hang on one second. So I is just that. It's just I. And then I squared is equal to -1. And then I to the third power is the same thing as I to the first power times I squared, which I to the first power is just I, and I squared is -1. So really when we simplify it, it's -I. Then I to the fourth power is I squared times I squared, which I squared again is -1. And so -1 times -1, we get +1. Then I to the fifth power is going to be considered I squared times I, which -1 times -1 times I, which just -1 times -1 is +1, and then +1 times I is just going to be I. And you can kind of see the pattern is going to continue. And I'm going to highlight what they equal so you can kind of see the sequence that we're going through. So it's I, -1, -I, 1. And then it repeats itself. I, -1, -I, and then 1. And so that's kind of, that's the sequence I think that you're referring to.
Yeah, that looks familiar for sure.
Good. And what happens then from there is that this pattern continues. And so the idea of that is that you can really, based on the pattern, you can find what I to any power is going to equal. So if I said something like I to the 37th power, well, you're just going to find the 37th number in the sequence, or the 37th figure in the sequence. And if you just follow your pattern, you can find that. And so that's the idea of doing powers of I. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for calling that in. I appreciate you working with me on figuring that out as we went.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks.